All right, so we're back. So now we were talking about hard work, and people go, "Oh, you're lucky because you could go to Disney World. Oh, you're lucky because you live in a big house." But really, it's not just hard work. No, it's you guys solve huge problems. You don't tell the company what we can't do.
You go say what we can.
Yeah, and we'll say even if somebody else says that we can't do it, well, that's when they call you guys, right? You and Bridget both. You've both had those kind of big.
We joke about it. You know, in the team that I'm in, my boss and I joke that there's plenty of other teams out there that are incident responders, and it's kind of that thing of if we put it in a policing side and we use the American numbers. We're the team that when 911 has a problem, they call us.
Oh, so when 911 has a 911,
when a cop needs 911,
911 for 911,
we're the guys that do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's like that's the emergency break glass. We got to get you guys in here.
We're kind of the guys that if and there's some people that I make sure I keep on the good side, and that's our conference and catering team and the reception staff at our CEO's floor, because they're the people that will find me whatever room I need. Make sure it's catered so that we can stay as long as we need in that command center. I always look after those guys, and those guys always say, if we see you with your rolling command center kit coming behind you, we know it's serious.
Yeah, so when you show up, so you have like the command center on wheels, it's in a suitcase. Yeah, when you show up, it's bad.
It's serious.
Yeah.
So they just open doors and they will bump stuff and they'll move stuff around. They don't need to be asked. They know we don't rock up unless there's an absolute need.
So, but in the past, right before when you on the front end of your career, you'd come in, you'd have to fight for a conference room to set up your command center.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Before we got in, we'd be bumped. We'd have people say, "Oh, we're hosting a farewell for somebody. You'll have to leave." And it's like, well, we're trying to solve a problem for the organisation.
Yeah, we got 3 hostages over in
So we've done all sorts of things, and Bridget's career, as he said, hers was, looking at being a part-time worker, looking after boys. They're finishing high school, so she says, right, I'm going full-time, and says, this is what I want to be. I'm going to start in a branch, and then I'm going to be a regional customer service manager. Well, she did that in a bit over 2 years. She then said, well, that's really interesting. I think I need a bigger challenge, and the bank sort of conspired, and they took 2 regions and they turned it into 1. And she got to work with the future chief of staff to our CEO, and that regional manager was hard. She was 30. Right. She'd started as a part-time teller herself while she was putting herself through university. She had enormous expectations. And I always remember one meeting with Trudy where Bridget was in the room, I was in the room, and by the way, that was really uncomfortable when, my wife, thanks to the way the bank worked for a short period of time, was actually my boss as well. That was interesting.
Yeah.
But this meeting with Trudy, she had a number of branch managers there, and she threw out a question about expenses, and one branch manager wasn't sure about their expenses, so they put their head down, and Trudy said, lift your eyes up to me, the answers aren't on the floor.
Whoa.
And from then on, not a single person walked into that room without knowing their numbers, without knowing what had happened the week before, what their plan was for the next week and then the next quarter. They knew their numbers, they knew their stuff, they were prepped. Just took the standard to be set, and that was it. But yeah, those words are still ringing in my ears.
So when you raise the expectation, people will rise to it. So if we don't expect anything...
If you don't expect anything of people, they will meet your expectations.
Right.
If you expect a lot of them, they will meet your expectations.
They'll rise to the occasion, and they'll give you great performance.
And the thing was, between that, the leadership team of Trudy and Bridget was an awesome team, because they didn't just talk it. They did it.
Yeah, they modeled the way. They led by example.
If a bank manager said, my guys can't get the referrals, they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget would say, well, I'll be out tomorrow and let's see what they do. And then she'd coach them. Have you thought about, perhaps you could talk to customers this way, here's a good referral source. And then Trudy would come out and she'd walk through the banking chamber and she'd just sit and watch the dynamic. And afterwards, she'd have a coaching session with the branch manager about the dynamic in their branch. What did it feel like to walk in?
Right.
And then how to turn that tangibly into a better customer experience, so people wanted to talk to you and wanted to give you business. And that region had been underperforming for a number of years. In 1 year, they turned it around. There was 1 or 2 branches, and I've got to say, I'll blow my own trumpet here, my branch was performing. But there was a few others that weren't really performing, and they only had to performance manage one person out. Everybody else lifted. They just needed some guidance and some coaching.
Some coaching.
And some resetting of expectations.
Resetting the expectations.
And it wasn't hitting the target. Hitting the target was, that's come to work. If you're going to come to work, you hit the target. If you don't want to be coming to this job, well, feel free to not hit the target or find another job, because that's the way it's going to go.
Right.
You exceed the target, then let's talk reward.
Right. Wow.
So it was really, really clear, and almost back to binary. We're not going to look at this substandard performance. You hit the target, that's effective.
Right.
You exceed the target, that's better than effective.
Anything other than that, we're not talking about.
We're not talking. It was binary. You know, I reflect back on it now. It was that binary.
So there was and I think a lot of times in corporations nowadays, when I see that, it's like we put up with the substandard, and we actually pat ourselves on. It's kind of comes from in America. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Like you get a trophy for showing up.
Yeah.
So if you showed up, that's great. You get a pat on the back. Oh, thank you. You know, and so we don't really have a reward system anymore, because we don't want anybody to feel bad if they didn't perform. And so now, when you take that into an organization, and that's the culture, that you've been brought up, and it's gone on for a couple, generations now. It's just like, you're fighting.
We have first year people that are in their first year in the organisation, and I've had to have some hard conversations with some people around your boss doing a performance appraisal on you is not harassment. That's them doing a performance appraisal.
Yeah, people actually said it was harassed. They were getting harassed.
I'm getting harassed because my boss is asking me to do what I contracted to do. It was in your letter of offer. This is the performance measures. This is the job description. You signed up to this. And they're saying, well, that's harassment. That's not harassment.
Yeah.
That's a manager doing their job.
Right. Which is such a rare thing that people thought it was harassment.
Yeah. It's like, no one's ever told me that. I've gone through 6 years at high school. Nobody's ever told me I wasn't doing a good job. Well, I think I'm doing a great job. Okay.
Now, that's interesting, because when I go and we'll survey corporations, you and I talked about this, we'll do surveys and are you a great performer, a good performer, an average performer, below average? And the overwhelming, more than 87% of people say, I'm a great performer. Yeah. But then you look at the company's own numbers, their own, especially when, it's a public company and they're audited, we look at their numbers. Yeah, you're not even average, man. So how could you have everybody be above average and be great performers? Yeah. You're drinking the Kool-Aid. And it's funny, the greater the performer level, the lower they rate themselves. The ones that are great performers say, you know what, I'm really working hard to be average. Have you found that to be the same?
And there's more I can do. Yeah, look, I went through a period, and not long after I moved into the crisis management team, where the hardest feedback on the performance wasn't coming from everyone else. It was coming from me. And I'm starting to beat myself up because I'm thinking I'm not changing stuff here. I'm not getting a good result. And my boss is telling me I'm doing a good job. And he's a man of few words, and in terms of coaching, he just says, well, if you're doing a bad job, you'll know. Okay, well, some words of guidance would be helpful, but that's okay. Yeah. I'm kind of used.
I'm just going to know. Oh, the angels are going to.
I'm kind of used to the way he works, and we've worked out when I'm getting feedback and when I'm not, and he's got that. But I went through a period where I'm thinking there's got to be more I can do. There's more I can do. Let me get the feedback. And I've got general managers telling me I'm doing a good job. I've got group executives sending me letters of thank you. I've got gift cards turning up from an exec because of the job that I've done, how quickly stuff was handled, and really thank you for your energy and your enthusiasm. And I'm still beating myself up. And I was beating myself up over something that turned out to be irrelevant. It was because I didn't have a qualification. Everybody else in this industry has a qualification. And here I am, a guy with a high school education.
Now let's just kind of hang out here for just a second. This is interesting because you don't have a college degree.
No.
You just have...
I've got the University of Life.
University of Life. And then you went into the military, in the infantry, and then you came out, and then because you couldn't, you're paralyzed and you couldn't walk, and then you learned how to walk again, and so now you're going to be an accountant. And here you are, and you're running around at the C level, and the CEOs of this stuff, one of the 4 biggest banks in the South Pacific is saying, hey, what do we do in this crisis? So... And I got a PhD, so I'm not belittling at any stretch of the imagination formal education. But I've always said that man, that is not the way. That's not the key to success. That doesn't get you. That doesn't make you a critical thinker. That doesn't make you emotionally intelligent. It doesn't make you be mentally tough. It doesn't give you the creative solving, problem solving oriented person. And you're like living, walking proof of that. Did you get, so you're kind of having to feel like you have to prove yourself?
Yeah, there was almost that bit, and I was, because in my organisation there were so few people that did this work. There was 2 of us. I couldn't benchmark myself against others, so I went out into the wider world to benchmark my own performance against the performance of other crisis managers. I can't compare myself to my teammate.
Right.
We're at the same level.
Right.
We work with each other all the time. So I had to go externally, and I'm seeing guys and men and women there that it's masters this, PhD,
right,
adjunct professor, and
that doesn't help you when it hits the fan, does it?
No.
And because you can't hide behind the degree or the certification or whatever your bona fides are when it hits the fan.
And when we boiled it down, I sat down and I recalibrated, and the thing that got me was the Army taught me the most important skill in life. And that was, the situation is the situation. Fiction has to be plausible. Reality is reality. So the Army taught me to be uncomfortable with ambiguity. This is what's happened. Contact, wait, out.
So I call it being comfortable being uncomfortable,
yeah.
Which is the same, but you're saying ambiguity, but it's the same thing. We're flying without a safety net, and you get comfortable being that way.
Yeah, here's the information you've got. Make a decision, move on. Mm-hmm. If the information changes, change.
Reassess.
Reassess.
But
doesn't mean you change your course of action.
Right.
But you may have a minor course correction.
Right.
Or you may look at that and say, well, the information that you've given me is not relevant to the mission at hand. So
that's a sand trap. I don't even enter that into the mix.
I'll take that.
Emotional
I'll shove it in the pocket.
Right.
I'll keep going. If I get another bit of information that all of a sudden that's bracketed, if that's bracketed, that actually might mean a change. But it's just constant reassess. And that whole thing, that decision making there, more information. I work with a colleague. She's a great financial crime investigator. I'm happy to move when I've got what I think is roughly between 40 and 50% of the information. She won't move until she's got 100%.
So I call that analysis or paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
I can't move until
I can't move. And we've worked through in terms of what are our strengths. When I need some relief in that crisis room, when I need somebody else coming in, I know to bring her in is not day 1, it's day 3. By day 3, we're stabilised. We're about 90% of the way there to knowing what we're doing.
So that's when you bring her in, because otherwise it's bogging the whole thing down. So
that's it.
So here again, people whisper, you know enough to get her out of her own way. You bring her in when you have enough information to use her expertise, and whatever that roadblock is, and you just kind of go around it and then bring her in.
Work her in.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
She's comfortable with the work. Well, initially she's uncomfortable because it's not 100%, it's 90%.
So, but you're getting 90%. You only have 10% together there. You don't bring her in from the beginning because it's a long way to get to the 100%. Yeah.
I had a general manager one day, general manager of risk, and I went to this individual and said, I need you to lead a crisis management team for this division. He said, you don't want me. I said, why? He said, I'm a risk manager. I want data. If I have a choice between asking for data and making a decision, I will always ask for data. What you need is one of the guys on my team. He's effectively my 2IC. He is great when the pressure's on, and he will move forward. You don't want me, I will slow you down.
Wow.
And this general manager
self-awareness, man,
was beautiful.
Yeah, you'd love that guy, man.
It was just to have that conversation before the battle, rather than relying on him when we're in the battle, and he doesn't work, knowing that he's going to support the guy that he's going to send in. This is what you need. You tell me it's a crisis, he goes in, because he's the one that is going to move forward. He's not going to be bogged down. He's not going to be paralyzed through analysis. Mm-hmm. He will make a decision. And you know what? When it's declared crisis, he said, I'll back him.
Wow. We
went and told that other guy. He turned around to this general manager and he said, and when have you ever given me that feedback? That's,
well, you didn't
I've worked for you for years. You've never given me that level of confidence. So it's like, well, I think I'll let you guys be alone for a minute.
Look
you
at
can have
the time.
conversation.
Oh, hey, I got to go.
So
that's awesome.
Those kind of things on just getting people to play to their strengths, understanding some of the challenges that come out with the individual and how we work it through. we've been in other circumstances as well where, as I said, I'm happy to go with 40 to 50%.
Yeah, if you have to, you have to.
I'm comfortable doing that. And there's times I've had to look at that and say, you know what, I think we need some more analysis on this. Well, I'm good to go. I think we can make this work and we can find it. A little bit more information.
Help you get more buy-in from everybody else on the team. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's something, again, emotionally intelligent, aware of where everybody else is at, and then try to find the happy medium.
That's it.
That's fantastic.
Play to strengths.
We're going to be right back.